Good morning. I'm Maddie Harvey. I'm a knitwear designer and knitting teacher living and working in Edinburgh. If you're watching the replay of this, hello. This is my Thursday knits and cake for breakfast video, which I do every Thursday morning. And I create patterns and knitting kits and, well, online workshops at the moment for knitters to help them develop their creativity and their knitting confidence. So the idea of these weekly videos is that I share a little bit of what I've been working on this week, a kind of behind the scenes sneaky peek, and I also give you some kind of knitting tips or a bit of knitting know-how as well. Before the lockdown, I was hosting a weekly knit night on a Wednesday, and I would do some baking for the knit night. So I have been trying to keep that up, and then eat a bit of the baking for my breakfast on a Thursday, which is why it's called Knits and Cake for Breakfast. But this week, my oven is broken, so I haven't been able to do any baking. I think it's just the ignition needs a new battery in it. Well, I'm hoping that's what it is. It's a gas oven. So I think if I can find out where to change the battery, I'll be okay, because it's not really a great time for your cooker to not be working, is it? Yeah, I mean, we're pretty much vegetarian in this house, so I wouldn't be cooking a turkey for Christmas dinner anyway, but I still need to use the oven, so I really need to get that fixed as soon as possible. But I've got my cup of coffee, so yeah, no baking this week, I'm afraid. Yeah, if you've got a yarny advent calendar, I've been seeing lots of pictures on social media of people's advent calendars. How's that been going? I have to say, this is the one that I knitted last year, and I've been wearing this all the time. This is my SOS cowl. I've been wearing this nearly every day for the last few weeks. But I thought I would show you what's been in my yarny advent calendar. So I know this will be back to front, I've got this one, which is, it's a 12 Days of Christmas one. And it was organised by Giddy Yarns, and it was a charity box. I ordered it in the summer, and it's 12 different dyers. So it's quite a nice way to see what all these different dyers do if you've not had their yarn before. So if you have got this one, you might want to look away. I won't say too much about the yarns. I'll just hold them up so that if you want to look away, the audio won't spoil it for you. Okay, so I showed you the first two, I think, last Thursday. So I'm just doing one every other day. So look away now if you don't want to see. Okay, right. So this one was the third one, and that's who that one's by. So it's really bright and zingy. My 9-year-old has got her eye on this one. And then after that, number 4 was this one, which actually is quite Christmassy, isn't it? I think it might come out a bit stripy, but that's who that one's by. Hopefully you can make that out. I know it's back to front. And I'm trying to keep all the little labels with the yarn so I don't forget which one's which. And then this is the last one. So this was yesterday's one. So that one's quite subtle. And I haven't actually cast on anything yet. So you can look again if you were looking away. I'll show you what I've been working on, but I'm hoping once I've got that finished, I will cast something on with my advent yarn. I'm planning on making one of these. Well, I think they're called Dickies, which I think is a bit of a silly name for lots of reasons, but also because to me that's like a dicky bow tie, but it's like a kind of sort of like a cowl but with a bit hanging down the front. So I'm hoping to make one that's long enough to tuck into my top of my trousers, and then go all the way down the back as well, so a bit like a sleeveless top, but without sides and with a kind of turtleneck. So yeah, that's my plan anyway. But I've got I've got a bit distracted with something this week, and I've also got some work knitting that I'll show you in a minute. This is what I got distracted with. It's a little gnome. And I'm not usually one for knitting little stuffies or anything that's got little bits that you have to sew on afterwards. But I was quite taken with this. One of my colleagues from Knitting for All, who I do some teaching work with, has created this lovely gnome pattern. And I'm doing a little workshop for some of my local knit nighters, an online workshop. So we're going to make these little gnomes. It's really cute. And when I went back and I looked at the pattern pictures, I've gone a bit overboard on the beard. So mine's got this huge beard. But my kids were saying, well, you should make one that's like a girl one with sort of hair coming out the back maybe, or little bunches or something. So I might have a go at that. I started knitting up another one. I thought I would maybe try some non-traditional colours. So I've got the grey body and a sort of mustard yellow hat. So yeah, I've got, I need to stuff these, and then I'll have the nose and the arms to do. And then the beard actually didn't take me too long to do. I cut some strips and then I attached them with a crochet hook, and then I just put my tapestry needle through the strands to split them, and it makes a really good effect for the beard. Yeah, so I could see myself knitting quite a few of these actually, and maybe like in different colours. It's done in Aran weight yarn, so it's quite quick, and you know, it doesn't use very much. I think it was about 10 grams for the hat and 15 for the body. So I think it might be a good way to use up some scraps and just have them dotted around the house. Or I might put some in the window. I was wondering if I strung them up on a line and put them in the window. That might be quite cute. Anyway, so that's what I've been knitting on this week. I've gone down a little gnome rabbit hole. And then the other thing I've been working on is this cowl design for Cookston Crafts. So she's actually, I wasn't able to show you this last week because Claire had been keeping it a secret, but she decided to show everybody before she released the boxes. And I think last time I looked, she had a couple boxes of these treat boxes left. So she's doing Hogmanay treat boxes. You get this gorgeous yarn and this pattern and some other treats. And she sold them really quickly. I think when she released them, she sold about 30 or something in the first 24 hours. They've been really, really popular. So I think if you go over to her website, she's Cookston Crafts, she might have a couple left. And she was talking about just doing the yarn with the pattern as a kit rather than a whole box. So, so this is the pattern. So it's a cowl. It's a triangular cowl, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. It's got this patterning, so it's got slip stitches here, and then it's got this little sort of gathered stitch here, and it's very, very subtle, supposed to look like a little bell. So it's an asymmetric cowl, so it starts off at a point here, and you increase, and then it's got a join here for the shoulder, and then I'm just finishing off the cowl neck, so it's going to have a folded hem, that bit. So the cowl bit will be, the bit that's actually on your neck will be double, and it's a little bit hard to show actually. I should maybe put it on, but it might come off the needles. So it's an asymmetric cowl with this patterning. So I think it's come out really nicely. The yarn's gorgeous. It's sort of, you know, these orange, burnt orange and sort of grey, purpley slate colour, and some brown, and like a pale, almost like a creamy colour. It's beautiful. Oh, there's my lifeline. I don't know if you ever use lifelines. I put one in because I wasn't sure about if the construction was going to come out how I thought it was going to come out. I did a sort of little mini practice and it worked. So I thought I'll just put a lifeline in case it doesn't work and I have to rip it out, and that will just save me struggling to pick up the stitches again. So but the pattern will also be available just as an individual pattern. So I thought I would talk about variegated yarns, because they're the kind of yarns that are so tempting when you see them in a skein, and often people just buy one and they have a random skein in their stash and they're not sure what to do with it. So I thought I would give you my 3 sort of top tips of how to use variegated yarns and what kind of patterns to look out for using them with. So the first thing, I've just made a little list over here. So the first thing is if you look for a pattern with slipped stitches. So this has got these slip stitch columns, and it's also got these little wrapped stitches here. So what that's doing is it's just breaking up the colour. So sometimes with variegated yarns you get that pooling effect where, you know, you'll get, like, it could have happened with this but it hasn't, where you might get, say, all the orange all kind of clustering together row after row after row, or all of the blues, say, all clustering together and repeating, and so you get these kind of hazy stripes, which sometimes is the sort of effect that you want, but other times it's not. So any pattern with slipped stitches will just sort of change up the number of stitches that are worked in a particular row, and that'll interrupt any of that kind of colour repeat that's happening. So this one, that's why this one's got these slipped stitches in the columns here, because I had done it without those, and this wasn't actually pooling, but I just thought that adds a bit of interest, and it also breaks up what is a kind of little chunk of garter stitch there. Patterns with garter stitch or moss stitch are also a good bet for variegated yarns. And the other kind of pattern that you might try is something where it's striped with a solid colour or another colour. So you're not ever getting a whole block of the variegated yarn. So something perhaps where the variegated yarn is done in a sort of feature stitch. So this is my little Golden Moments shawl. So you can see here, this has got slip stitches, but it's also got this clam stitch, which is like a kind of increase-decrease stitch. And this isn't done in variegated yarn, but I think this would work really well with one of the yarns being done in a variegated, because you're not getting a big block of that one yarn. So say if the yellow was a variegated, you know, it's striped throughout, it's got slip stitches, it's got increasing and decreasing little feature stitches, and that would really break up any pooling or anything that might happen. And it would make a lovely feature of all the colours in the edge. So something like that works well with variegated. So that's the little Golden Moments shawl. And as I say, that one's not, this sample's not knitted in variegated yarns, but I think it would really suit it. And the other thing is, if you're knitting something that has got areas of stocking stitch or garter stitch and you're worried about pooling, is that thing about alternating your skeins. So even if you've just got one skein, a 100-gram skein, you could wind it into 2 50-gram balls and just make sure that you would then stripe them. So you would work one round or 2 rows or whatever in one and then swap to the other one. Just make sure that you start the second one in a different place in the sort of repeat of the colour, if you get what I mean, so that you're breaking up any pooling or grouping together of the colours. Oh, there's somebody, Lynn, saying on the live that she's just knitted a hat and the colours have clustered on opposite sides and the middle is plain. Yeah, that can often happen, and sometimes you can't tell when the yarn's in the skein. It's only when you knit it up that happens and you realise. And also it depends on how many stitches you've got, so probably if you cast on a different number of stitches, that pooling would happen in a different way, or maybe it would come out a bit striped or something. So yeah, so those 3 tips are quite handy if you're looking for patterns for variegated yarn. So look for a pattern with slip stitches, look for a pattern where you could either use the variegated with another yarn, or it's got sort of little feature stitches and not too much plain areas of the variegated. And then the third thing was to alternate skeins, or split your skein in two and stripe the two balls so that you're not getting blocks of colour. So hopefully that helps. I love variegated yarns, and I think a lot of people do have those single skeins in their stash. But this cowl pattern that's coming next week would be a good one as well. And Claire and I are going to be running a knit along. We're planning to do a live on Hogmanay, an Instagram live, because as Claire said, there's not much happening. It's not like either of us have got big parties to be going to or anything. So look out for that. Nearer the time, I'll put some posts up about it. But I'll let you get on with your Thursday, and I will see you next week. Bye.